What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. I know what you're probably thinking. Isn't it a little bit too late in the year to be reviewing electric skateboards? And while I kind of agree with that, it is getting a little bit cold. When it's cold out, temperatures aren't the best for testing electric rideable things. However, I have not one, but two new products to test for you guys today. And the reason that I'm getting to them now is because I've reviewed some things from this company before in the past, and they have not let me down. So I'm thinking the filming is gonna go pretty smooth. The products of theirs that I've tested in the past were ones that I could definitely recommend, so I think these two new ones will follow suit. Another thing is that the holidays are coming up, and almost every company in the world has some sort of Black Friday deal. I know this company has some pretty killer deals on both of these products that I'm going to be taking a look at, and we're going to go with the most requested one first. I've had a lot of comments and DMs and emails of people asking me if I could get around to reviewing this board, so without further ado, let's get into the new Backfire G3. Just like a lot of the Backfires that I've reviewed in the past, this one is built on their pretty unique deck shape. This one, however, does feel a little bit different to me. It feels like it has a little bit more flex and spring to it. It is made out of bamboo and fiberglass, and this thing is, of course, a dual hub motor board, much like the others that I've reviewed as well. As far as the advertised specs on the G3 goes, there are two 450 watt motors. It's powered by a new and improved battery over the G2T, and it should be giving me a range of 15 to 18 and a half miles and a top speed of 28.5 miles per hour. Those are some pretty beefy looking advertised specs, so we're definitely going to be putting those to the test today. There are black calibered trucks in both the front and the rear, and mounted up to those trucks are some massive 96 millimeter wheels, which should be great for sucking up all the bumps and cracks in the roads today. Like always, the designs of the Backfire boards are pretty damn clean in my eyes. They do have a couple of cosmetic and functional changes underneath though, and you will start by noticing the LED strips running down the side of the battery compartment. Also underneath there you will find a charging port as well as a USB port now, that way you don't have to go searching around for a place to charge your remote controller. And then another great thing about this package is that the advertised price is normally coming in at $7.99. However, if you use the Black Friday code that's available right now as you're watching this video, you can get an additional $200 off, bringing this board into the mid-tier, almost budget level style board, coming in at $5.99. All right, now before we get into riding the G3, I'm gonna give you guys a preview of something that I can make happen here today as well. A review on the murdered out looking Ranger X2. I do want to get around to testing this, and this thing looks way more promising than another board that I've reviewed sort of recently. I'm not going to name any names here, but this thing looks like it is a really well put together package. So if you guys want to see a review on this beast of a board, slap some likes on here and maybe I will make that happen. Let's say 500 likes and I will put that video out soon after. Now let's move on to the G3. Now for this board, I'm feeling like this deck is a little bit flexier. I probably should have brought out the previous model, the G2T, to test this side by side. However, I definitely dig the flex of this so far. It's got the same Backfire shape that you guys are probably familiar with. You can flick it up with a little bit of a kicktail on there and let it down gently. As far as the modes go, the controller is pretty much the same as it was in the past. You got the remote battery, the board battery, a speedo here, shows you what mode you're in, trip, odometer, all sorts of good stuff there. So right now I'm in E, which is like the eco mode. Bump it up to S, which is like the sport mode, I guess. And then the caution button down here, if I press that, that will put me into turbo mode, which I've tested on both boards before. However, what's different about this one, well, I'll just save that for a little bit later. Some other things to look up at close on this board is that now the charge port has some threads on it, so you can actually secure the charger in there if you wanted to do that. And then finally a USB port on the battery. That means I can plug the USB in, charge this while the actual board is charging. That's a super nice touch, and I know it sounds like a pretty minor feature, however, I feel like more board manufacturers should end up doing that. And then you got these cool LED lights on the side here. Since it is daytime, you're not going to be able to see them that well. However, if I double tap on the power button here, you'll see they light up fairly brightly too. I know it's hard to tell on camera, but I think that's a cool touch. I'm not sure if that will take a significant hit on the battery life, so for this testing, we're just gonna have those off. All right, you guys already know how this next part goes. We're gonna start with a top speed test, followed by a hill test, and then a distance test, all in one testing. This is going to be the first time I've ever ridden this new board, so let's see how it does. Tracking app is on the phone. We are in eco mode. Already from the start, it's very easy to tell that I am riding a Backfire, not only because of the controller, but because of their smooth acceleration curve. The big wheels suck up all these cracks, and it's always a very smooth ride with pretty much all of their boards that I've tested. The brakes in eco mode, a little underpowered, but in eco mode, you're not gonna be going that fast. Let's bump up to sport mode right away. We'll go find some smooth pavement to get up for a top speed test. Alright, so already in the sport mode, and not even the turbo mode, this thing is feeling really fast. I guess that has to do with the new battery, the bigger wheels and everything. I'm glad I'm wearing my helmet for this one because we're probably going to end up going even faster than I just was right there. One more thing to keep in mind throughout this testing is that, like I mentioned, it is pretty cold out here, so because of that, it may throttle the performance back a little bit, especially when it comes to the distance. It doesn't seem like it's affecting the top speed, but whew, it's cold out here. I just passed a sign back there at a bank and it said it was 41 degrees Fahrenheit right now. Definitely not the ideal temperatures to be testing batteries like this, however, we're gonna do it anyway. If for some reason I think it's suffering too much, I'll have to come back in the future and test this thing out in the springtime. So I'm on the sidewalk next to the street where I typically do my speed tests. It's nice and freshly paved, but there was a cop sitting right at the bottom of the hill where I typically do the hill test. Speed limit on this street is only 25 miles per hour. Probably would be frowned upon to be even riding an electric skateboard in this small town, especially when it can break the speed limit of this street. So I'm gonna ride down to the other end of this street. Hopefully he doesn't follow me, and then we'll see if I can get a quick, fast top speed run in. All right, coast is clear. I'm gonna do a quick top speed test right now and talk about this turbo mode for a second. Previously on the G2T, the turbo mode was limited to 30 seconds and then it would cut itself off. That way you're not depleting the batteries too quickly, sort of like a safety feature. This one, however, is not limited. So if I press that caution symbol, now I'm in turbo mode, and let's get a top speed readout for the G3. All right, there I think we got the top speed, and this cop is still sitting right over here. So that cop is just chilling over there, and I don't want to like taunt him by flying back and forth and then going up the hill that he's sitting in front of. So I'm gonna modify the hill test a little bit and just go to the hill over. This is about the same steepness. The first part of the hill will be like the mellow section, and then I'll actually go over to the top part of the hill that I typically ride up, and that will really be putting the hill climbing abilities of the G3 to the test. They do advertise that this thing climbs hills a little bit better. They say a 30% grade, so we'll see how it does. I'm back into sport mode for this. It has some good acceleration even when you are just standing on the board and accelerate. Flying up this hill, no issues at all. I'm actually gonna have to brake at the top. Now we are on the steep section of this hill. Cop is still lurking back there. I don't know why that's weirding me out. And this thing is doing great up the hill. It says I'm doing 24 kilometers. I probably should have changed that to miles per hour. There's actually a speed trap right here. 17 miles per hour uphill, if that was correct. Feels good, that's all I'm saying. Alright, rolling back downhill now. We're going to test out the regen braking on this thing. I think that it's going to do pretty well, even for a hub motor board. Yep, brakes are feeling very strong. And if I pull all the way back at the bottom here, you can come to almost a complete stop. All right, a complete stop. Pretty impressive. All right, now I'm gonna go get off the streets and head right into the distance test. Like I said and keep saying, I'm not sure how it's gonna do with the cold weather out here. Personally, I'm freezing, probably should have wore a jacket. And we'll see who can stand the cold the longest, myself wearing a hoodie or the Backfire G3. All right guys, back for some final thoughts on the G3. I'm surprised this thing has lasted as long as it has out here because it's down to about 35 degrees now. And when you're doing 20, probably more than 20 miles per hour in 35-degree weather, it gets cold. I can use the hub motors to warm up my hands a little bit. Those things do still get a little bit warm even when it is this cold out. Now let's check out the app and see what the real world specs are in today's conditions. We made it a total distance of 13.19 miles, which is pretty damn good considering we did the top speed test, the hill test, and the distance test all in one while it's cold out. A total runtime of 1 hour and 21 minutes, an average moving speed of 11.38 miles per hour, and a max speed of 23 miles per hour. Now to me, it felt like this thing went a little bit faster than 23, so if I check out my other app, the Ulysses speedometer map also uses GPS, which unfortunately isn't the most accurate thing ever, but on there it says that we went 25 miles per hour. Now those real world specs, especially given today's conditions, are great in my opinion. I have come to find that 25 miles per hour for an electric skateboard for me is right about the sweet spot. I've ridden boards that are faster, and honestly after about 25 miles per hour it gets a little bit sketchy. Unless you're going out wearing full gear, which as you guys know I typically only just wear a helmet. If I'm going any faster than 25 miles per hour I'm getting a little bit uneasy, so I am very happy with the top speed on this board so far. As far as the distance goes, like I keep mentioning, the cold is going to take a toll on this battery, so I will have to bring this thing out again in the spring for the big e-board showdown. I should have a pretty good spread of boards similar to the last test when we did that, and if I had to guess, in more ideal conditions this thing is going to have a little bit longer of a range on it. Like I said in the beginning, I have not tested a Backfire board that I could not recommend, and this one follows suit with that. This is definitely a board that I can recommend to pretty much anyone out there because of the price point. You get the hub motors from Backfire, which for me have been reliable so far across 3 different boards that I've tested. You get the big 96mm wheels, some great trucks. This thing carves great. This one does feel a little bit flexier, like I mentioned. The controller is good, nice and simple, just 3 different modes to pick from. The turbo mode is now a little bit nicer that you can leave it on consistently. However, I did not do that during this testing. And then you got a couple cool other features like the lights on here, which would be pretty rad at night, as well as the USB port. I really hope more boards start coming out with that because it's a very simple feature to integrate and it makes our lives much easier. So like I mentioned, for a Black Friday deal, these things are $200 off right now if you are in the market for an electric skateboard. I think this thing is really hitting the sweet spot for the price you pay and what you're actually getting out of it. The real world specs, in my opinion, have been great on this board, and I think this is going to be bumped up towards the top of my recommended boards for this season. There are quite a few contenders when it comes to picking out a board, so I will take all of the specs that I gathered here today and put them into my spreadsheet, which is looking like this now. It's kind of hard to see on video, so if you want to check that out in more detail and find a board that fits your needs, you can check out the link in the description down below. If you guys have any questions on this thing, let me know. Like I said, I will be bringing this out for some more testing in the future. I typically don't do that with boards, but given the cold temperatures today, I think it is only fair. And now, one more thing. I think I'm going to be moving on to testing this beast right now. So if you guys do want to see a video on this, let me know in the comments down below and leave a like on here. Like I said, 500 likes and I will drop a video on the Ranger 2. This is a hub motor all-terrain board, super clean, double kingpin trucks. There's a lot of cool features on this one as well. So I think I'm gonna get around to testing this as well. Or maybe I should wait until it warms up a little bit. I don't know, but I'm freezing, so that's all that I have for today. If you guys are new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe and make new videos every week. That's all. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.